I was making coffee in my tiny London apartment when my phone buzzed. A message from someone I hadn't heard from in over a decade. Mrs. Langford, the neighbor who used to bring over banana bread when I was little. No hello, no context, just one line. "I'm so sorry about your parents. I can't believe what I saw today." I tapped the video attached, confused, and froze. There they were, my parents, standing at the pulpit of St. Mary's Church. Black clothes, somber faces. Behind them, a closed casket. And next to that casket, a framed photograph of me. I dropped the mug. The shatter barely registered. My father was reading a eulogy. My mother was dabbing fake tears. They were burying me. I wasn't dead. I was breathing. Watching, shaking. And in that moment, one terrifying truth settled into my bones. They hadn't just erased me. They had buried me alive. If your family faked your death to steal your life, what would you do? Would you stay silent? Or crash your own funeral? Comment your answer below and don't forget to subscribe. This story might change the way you look at family forever. My name is Jasmine Carter. I'm 29 years old. And until 3 years ago, I believed family meant protection. I believed blood meant loyalty. That no matter how bad things got, my parents could never turn their backs on me. But I was wrong. I grew up in Montclair, New Jersey, in a 2-story house with blue shutters and a porch swing that squeaked every summer. My dad, Robert Carter, ran our family's logistics business. My mom, Evelyn, was the face of every charity gala in town. And then there was my younger sister, Chloe, the golden child where I was quiet and methodical. Chloe was loud, radiant, messy in every way. I cleaned up her spills literally and figuratively for years. When she crashed Dad's car in high school, I took the blame. When money went missing from Mom's fundraiser account, I helped reconcile the books. That's how it always went. Chloe made the mess, I cleaned it up. Still, I never resented her. Not really, because I thought this is just family. It's complicated, it's layered, but it's mine. And one day things will even out. After college, I joined the family company as a junior accountant. Dad was hesitant at first. "You sure you don't want to try something else, Jazz?" But I insisted. I wanted to help. I wanted to belong. For a while it worked. I helped modernize their books, saved the business. Thousands implemented systems they still use today. Then came the storm. It started with a discrepancy, nearly $80,000 missing from our operational account. I flagged it in the monthly report, thinking maybe there was a clerical error, but the deeper I looked, the clearer it became. It wasn't a mistake. It was theft, unauthorized transfers, luxury brand purchases, private club charges, all traced to Chloe's account. I froze. It wasn't just a financial issue, it was a felony, and it was going to crash down on the entire business. I did the only thing I thought was right. I brought it to my parents. Quietly, privately, I remember the exact moment. It was a Saturday morning. I laid the evidence on the kitchen island. Chloe was upstairs, probably asleep. My parents sat silently reading. And then my mother said it. "Better one ruined daughter than two." My heart stopped. My father didn't even look up. "You humiliated us," he muttered. "You're no longer our daughter." By Monday, I was locked out of every company system. By Tuesday, my work laptop was collected. By Wednesday, my phone stopped ringing. No messages, no explanation, just gone. I tried to fight it. I called, texted, emailed. I begged them to hear me out, to believe me, but my number was blocked. Emails bounced. Family friends who once hugged me tight crossed the street when they saw me coming. Even my godmother, the woman who'd held me on my baptism day, pretended she didn't recognize me. It was like I had died, except I was still here. Breathing, hurting, unwanted, I packed my life into 2 suitcases and left. Moved to London on a work visa and took a job at a small cafe. Nothing fancy, just enough to survive. I changed my number, deleted my social media, stopped using my last name in public. For a while, I tried to forget, but some truths claw their way back up, no matter how deep you bury them. Especially when your own parents stand in front of a church full of mourners, eulogizing a daughter who's still alive. I wish I could say that was the worst of it, but the day I watched my own funeral was only the beginning. That night, I barely slept. My hands kept replaying the video again and again. My father's voice delivering the eulogy, calm and rehearsed. My mother's fake sobs, perfectly timed. The photo next to the casket, one I remembered. It was taken on my 23rd birthday. I paused. The frame zoomed in. Even the flowers matched. They had planned everything. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I tried to log back into my old email, the one linked to my bank, my university, my job offers. Access denied. I requested a reset. A message came back. This account has been permanently deactivated due to reported user decease. I sat frozen, deceased, not missing, not inactive dead. I contacted support after escalating through 3 layers of bureaucracy. A tech representative gave me the answer. Yes, ma'am. A formal death report was submitted and verified via government registry. The account was closed under deceased user protocol. I nearly dropped the phone. This wasn't just a social wipe. It was legal. I pulled up the U.S. Public Records database, typed in my name, Jasmine Carter, date of death, July 16, 3 years ago, cause automobile accident abroad, status deceased certificate, ID NJAF 729103. They had killed me on paper. In systems, in silence, and they didn't stop there. I went back to social media, not mine, but Chloe's. After years of having her account set to private, she'd gone public again. Wedding photos, dozens of them, champagne towers, ivory roses, a custom Vera Wang dress, captions like "To New Beginnings with my forever." In one photo, she stood beside her new husband, and beside them my father, holding a microphone, grinning to the one daughter who always made us proud. That caption wasn't just a tribute. It was a message. I hadn't just been forgotten. I had been replaced. A part of me wanted to scream. Another part just went numb. I kept scrolling through smiling faces, champagne toasts. And then I noticed something else. There wasn't a single mention of me. Not wish Jasmine could be here. Not thinking of her. Nothing. It was like I had never existed. Until I noticed something else. Something colder. In one photo, my mother held Chloe's hand, her wrist just barely visible beneath her sleeve. A charm bracelet, mine, a silver chain I'd received on my 16th birthday, custom made. One of a kind she'd taken, even that I closed the app. Heart pounding. They hadn't just deleted me, they'd taken everything I ever was, and divided it amongst themselves like I was an inheritance. But it didn't end there. I started to dig, search through business filings, tax documents, trust registries. That's when I found it 6 months after my declared death. The Carter family trust had been updated. The primary beneficiary was no longer Jasmine Carter. It was Chloe Carter Mendoza. Chloe had received everything: the inheritance, the real estate, the college fund my grandparents left for me. They waited until I was dead. Then they moved in on what was mine. They needed me gone, not just emotionally. Legally, officially, because in death I became silent. In death I couldn't fight back, but I wasn't dead. And the moment I understood what they had done, I knew they buried me for money, they mourned me for show, and they used my name to build a lie. But if they wanted me dead, they were about to learn just how alive I really was. I used to think heartbreak was loud, screaming matches, slammed doors, betrayal shouted across a kitchen. But this kind of heartbreak, it was quiet, surgical, and it carved me out from the inside. I stared at that trust document on my screen until my vision blurred. The signature line had Chloe's full name, witnessed, notarized. Filed 6 months after my supposed death. The ink might as well have been blood. My grandparents had left that money for me. They always said, "Use it to start your own business, baby girl. Build something that's yours." It was meant to be my freedom. My future. Instead, it paid for Chloe's wedding. I sat on my floor for hours that night. Documents spread around me like ashes. Tax forms, flight logs, lease agreements, pieces of proof that I had never disappeared. I had been here all along, alive, working, building a new life, one they chose to pretend didn't exist. And that's when the shift happened. Grief gave way to something colder. Sharper purpose. I didn't want revenge. I wanted resurrection, and I wanted it to hurt. I needed someone to see what I saw, to confirm I wasn't insane. So I made a call to the only person I hadn't reached out to since I left my Aunt Karen, my mother's sister, the one who used to sneak me Twizzlers under the dinner table when Mom got too stern. She answered on the second ring. "Hello, Aunt Karen, it's me, Jasmine." Silence. Then a sigh. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "You shouldn't have called Clickline dead." I tried again. Blocked. It felt like someone had taken the oxygen out of the room. I wasn't just invisible, I was untouchable. A ghost too dangerous to acknowledge. I texted cousins. One replied with a thumbs-up emoji, and nothing more. Another wrote, "Is this a prank?" Then silence. Only one voice broke through the wall. My cousin Daniel, the youngest, the one who always looked up to me. His message was simple. "Are you really alive?" I called him. He answered, "Jasmine." "Where are you? What's going on?" "I'm in London." I said, "I'm fine, but I need to know." "What did they tell you?" Daniel hesitated. "Then they said you died. A car crash, overseas. There wasn't a body too damaged. They said closed casket cremation." I covered my mouth. My breath felt stuck. None of it was true. Not the accident, not the cremation. I'd never even owned a car abroad, but it was the perfect lie. Untraceable, clean. And now I understood something horrible. This wasn't about grief. It wasn't even about shame. It was about covering something up, something worth killing me on paper for. And if I stopped now, it would stay buried, just like they wanted. But I wasn't going to stop. That night, I printed every piece of proof I had, bound it in a folder, labeled every page. I booked an appointment with a law firm that specialized in identity disputes and estate fraud. And I walked in the next morning wearing the black blazer I hadn't touched in 2 years. The junior attorney blinked when he saw the file I handed him. "You're challenging your own death?" he asked. I nodded. Officially and aggressively, he flipped through the pages: passport stamps, employment contracts, lease agreements, tax records. Then he paused on the death certificate. "This is a felony," he murmured. I know. He looked up. Why now? I met his eyes. Because apparently there's a memorial for me this Sunday, and I plan on attending. The law office smelled like old leather and paper. My folder sat open on the attorney's desk, its contents spreading like a case file in a crime drama, which honestly it was. "This is enough to file a motion to revoke the death declaration," he said, scanning the documents. "But you'll need to make a sworn statement, and it'll take time." "I don't have time," I said calmly, "because apparently my family's throwing a memorial for me in 3 days. He looked up slowly. "Wait, they're holding a service for someone who's very much alive." I leaned forward. "They've been performing this lie for years, and now they're going to perform their grand finale. I want to be the one who ends it." We filed everything that morning. Fraud complaint, motion to nullify the death certificate, even opened a case for potential embezzlement. Everything backed by hard proof. But I wasn't done. I had no intention of just letting the courts handle it quietly. They had told the world I was gone. They had stolen my future, my money, my name, and wrapped it all in a lie so polished it fooled entire systems. So now I would unwrap it, piece by piece. Publicly, I spent the next 2 days preparing. I pulled out the only black coat I had left, an old wool piece from college, simple, clean. I paired it with dark sunglasses and a blank expression. Then I reviewed my folder again. Passport entry, exit stamps, employment verification letters, tax filings from the UK lease contracts, voice recordings of calls confirming I was listed as deceased. And finally, the forged death certificate. I printed duplicates, bound them tight, and slipped them into my bag. On the morning of the memorial, I stood across the street from St. Mary's Church. It looked exactly the same as in the video. Cars lined the curb, men in black suits, women in veils, hushed conversations, hugs, tears. All for me. I watched from the opposite sidewalk unseen. I saw my parents arrive. My father held Evelyn's arm like he was escorting her to a Broadway performance. Chloe stepped out of a white BMW behind them in a knee-length black dress, holding a pearl clutch. Her eyes were dry, her mascara perfect. Inside, the church music played, a soft, mournful organ. A slideshow of childhood photos looped across a projector screen. My face, age 8 at the beach. Me in graduation robes, me holding a birthday cake. All surrounded by flowers and candles and pity. They had taken the best parts of me cropped from the wreckage they left behind and turned it into a show. I waited until the last moment, until the priest stood and said, "Let us rise for a moment of silence." That was my cue. I crossed the street slowly, my boots tapping against the stone like a drumbeat. The heavy wooden doors creaked open, loud, deliberate. The sunlight spilled down the aisle like a spotlight, and I stepped into it. Every head turned, gasps rippled through the pews. Some people clutched their chests, others dropped their programs. A small child whispered, "Mom, isn't that her?" My father's face went chalk white. The wine glass in his hand shattered against the pew. My mother fainted, dramatic practice complete with lace handkerchief fluttering from her palm. Chloe froze, her mouth opened slightly, the pearl necklace at her throat twisted as her fingers clenched. I kept walking, each step echoed, each stare burned. I didn't flinch. At the altar, I turned around to face them all. Silence. I pulled the folder from my coat, set it gently on the stand, then I spoke. "My name is Jasmine Carter. You may recognize the face. You printed it on the program." Nervous laughter, tension phones. Lifting into the air, I heard I died. I read my obituary. I watched my own eulogy. But I'm here, alive and ready to correct the record. Gasps, murmurs. A phone screen blinked red. Someone had hit record perfect. This I held up the certificate is a forgery. Filed by someone in this room, used to transfer my assets, used to steal my name, my life, my future. I looked at my father. "You buried me to protect your reputation." I turned to Chloe. "You replaced me to fund your life." A voice whispered, "She's got documents." Another, "She has proof." And then came the moment I had waited for. I paused, looked at them all and smiled. "Let's begin." The room held its breath. No one moved, not a whisper, not a cough. Just the low hum of the lights above and the weight of truth pressing down like a storm. I stood beneath my own portrait. The same photo they'd used to mourn me, smiling alive, unaware that one day it would sit beside a casket I never occupied. "This folder," I said, tapping the leather cover in front of me, "contains passport stamps, proving I never died abroad. Employment contracts showing I've worked every day since leaving the U.S. tax filings. Apartment leases. Every record, proving I never disappeared." I lifted a second document. "The only thing fabricated is this." I held up the forged death certificate. Someone in the back gasped. Another voice whispered, "She's serious." My father rose slowly from the front pew, face, pale lips trembling. "Jasmine, this is a misunderstanding," he said, voice hoarse. We thought, you thought what I cut in sharp but steady, that I wouldn't survive, that I wouldn't fight back, that I'd stay quiet while you rewrote my ending." He looked down, didn't answer. My mother still slumped in her seat, fake faint dragging on too long. Her trembling now almost cartoonish, I turned to Chloe. She hadn't moved. Her grip on her pearls tightened the tension sharp enough to snap them. I saw the trust. I said to her, "The inheritance, the filings, you took everything I didn't know," she whispered. "You signed," I replied. 6 months after my death, you toasted at your wedding while pretending I never existed." She opened her mouth again, but I didn't let her speak. "I'm not here to beg for acknowledgement. I'm not here to plead for forgiveness. I came because you all told the world I was gone, and now I'm standing right here to show you. You can't bury the truth behind me." Someone began recording. Another stood up slowly. Whispers turned into murmurs. Murmurs into conversations. "She has documents. This could be a felony. They forged a death report." The priest stepped forward, hesitant. "Ms. Carter, this is highly irregular." I turned to him gently. So was faking my death. He stepped back. I closed the folder, tucked it under my arm. "I'll let the lawyers in the courts handle what comes next. But I needed to be here to see your faces, to stand in the very place you chose to lie about me and reclaim what was mine." Then I walked. Not fast. Not in anger, just complete. Each step down that aisle echoed louder than any sermon I passed the mourners. Some shocked, some ashamed, some wide-eyed, like they'd seen a ghost. Maybe they had. A ghost resurrected by truth. Outside, the sun had shifted, casting long shadows against the pavement, but I didn't feel cold. For the first time in years, I felt real. That night, I met with my attorney again. He was waiting with a stack of papers. "They're moving quickly," he said. "The motion to revoke the death declaration is in progress. We filed a fraud claim against the estate, and begun the process to investigate the trust transfer. I nodded, then signed where he pointed. The final page was the official form to destroy the death certificate. He slid it across the table. I stared at it, then tore it clean in half. He blinked. Is that legally necessary? No, I said, just emotionally essential. By the end of the week, a formal investigation had begun. The Carter family was no longer a pristine household with a clean reputation. They were a case file, a legal mess. Chloe was served with notice of a civil suit for financial fraud. My father's company came under review for falsified records, and my mother, well, she stayed silent publicly anyway. But I heard through a third cousin she'd taken to telling people it was all a deep misunderstanding. Let her spin her own tale. Mine was already being written in ink in court. And this time, with my name signed proudly at the bottom, I didn't walk away from the funeral to feel triumphant. I walked away to feel real again. In the weeks that followed, the world didn't change overnight, but something inside me did. The government officially revoked the death certificate. I received a new copy of my social records. Cleanup dated mine again. The legal process to reclaim my inheritance was slow but steady. My lawyer told me it'll take months, maybe years, but it's yours by law. And that was enough for now. I didn't contact my parents, didn't respond when Chloe's husband emailed some hollow apology, didn't answer the voicemails from extended family, claiming they had no idea because maybe they didn't. But silence is a choice, and so is complicity. I'd spent years waiting for someone to reach for me, to knock on my door and say, "Come home." But the truth was, I never left. They just stopped seeing me. So I made a new life. On my terms, I moved to a small flat outside London, kept working at the cafe while building my own accounting firm from scratch. Slowly, quietly, with my name printed proudly on every document I filed. I didn't need revenge. I didn't even need an apology. All I ever needed was my life back, and I got it. Not because they gave it to me, but because I took it one step, one truth, one paper at a time. And the biggest lesson: sometimes the people who should protect you will be the first to erase you. But erasure doesn't mean the end. It means you get to rewrite the story. And this time, I'm the one holding the pen. What did you think of this story? If you were in Jasmine's shoes, watching your own family bury you while you're still alive, would you have had the strength to walk through those church doors? Would you fight to reclaim your name? Or would you walk away and never look back? Let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And tell me, what would you do if your truth was buried beneath someone else's lie? Because here's the thing. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by truth, loyalty, and the courage to say, no more. Jasmine didn't come back for forgiveness. She came back for freedom. And sometimes, that's the most powerful ending of all. If you stood with Jasmine today, hit like, share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to EN Reddit Story, where every day we bring justice, truth, and emotional reckoning to life.